Is a press conference held by the Ghana General Association yesterday, in which it was claimed that 7 journalists had been attacked, and statements were made that sought to create the impression that there is some design by President Mahama and his government to attack journalists. It is a most regrettable narrative. We do not think that it is fair to President Mahama, it is fair to government, it is even fair to the Ghana General Association, or even to the journalists who are reported to have been attacked. Subsequent to the press conference, I have engaged the president of the Ghana General Association in my capacity as the minister responsible for government communications, which then means that journalists, as you are, who we work with, are part of the stakeholders that we need to engage regularly. I sought to find out exactly what informed the press conference and why other alternative approaches were not adopted to discuss the matters with a view to seeking redress for those who may have been affected. After the conversation, we agreed that early next week there should be a direct interaction between my office and the Ghana Journalists Association. So I hope that that meeting comes off, and at that meeting we'll be able to address any concerns that journalists may have. That said, I must also express dismay about the way that narrative was woven. It created a certain misleading impression about government and about President Mahama, which needs to be straightened. All of you are aware that President Mahama is an easygoing, down-to-earth, affable individual who relates very well with all manner of people. He is a member of the Ghana Journalists Association in good standing. So essentially, he is one of you. He is a member of the Inky fraternity. And therefore, he will be the last person to supervise a dispensation where journalists are attacked. But the way that the press conference was addressed and the way that the matters were couched created the impression that some journalists had perhaps said or written something that government was unhappy about, and therefore government was carrying out reprisals against them. But that is completely incorrect. It is not true, and nothing of the sort has happened. When I inquired from the Ghana General Association president, he mentioned instances where at a recent Council of State elections, there was some scuffle and some journalists were roughed up. He also spoke about Erastus Asaidonko, who is reported to have been set upon by some illegal miners when he went there to cover their activities. But these are incidents involving persons who are acting unlawfully. For instance, illegal miners in the first place are breaking the law. So if in an attempt to report the activities, some of them attack a journalist, I'm not sure that you can lay the blame at the doorstep of President Mahama or the government. It is an act of criminality which should be dealt with in the same manner that if someone attacked me or assaulted me, it will be dealt with. If at the Council of State elections there is a scuffle and some misguided elements rough up journalists, for me it's a pure law and order issue which should be reported and dealt with by appropriate law enforcement agencies. I do not see how government can be roped in and the president can be said to have survived a situation where 7 journalists are attacked. If you close from work today and on your way, you engage in a dispute in traffic and somebody assaults you, I'm not sure that it would be fair to say that President Mahama is in power and you've been attacked, so he should be held responsible. If it is the case that you have reported that there is some wrongdoing in government, or you've uncovered some unlawful acts by the president or any official in government, and because of that, government has organized its agents or assigns to assault you or harm you in any way, then you can say that the president has to be held liable or government has to be held liable. And in this country, we've seen instances like that, where Ahmed Swali, who was known to have been actively involved in uncovering corruption in football in Ghana, was gunned down in broad daylight. That matter remains outstanding and is yet to be resolved. We've seen instances where Edward Adeti, a reporter for GH1 and Star FM, reported some underhand dealings in the Upper East region, I believe, involving the minister of that region at the time. And for that reason, he had to flee because his life was in danger. He was being threatened by agents, known agents of the state. And there are other examples that we can cite. But if illegal miners attack a journalist, or there's a scuffle and some journalists are involved, I don't see how it can be said that we have a situation where journalists are being attacked under President Mahama. These are violations of the law which should be reported. So the Ghana Journalists Association has every right to inquire about the status of investigations, but that inquiry should be addressed to law enforcement officials who have jurisdiction over these matters. President Mahama will not, under any circumstance, tolerate a situation where journalists are attacked for doing their work, especially in holding government accountable. Indeed, President Mahama himself has come under criticism, sometimes from members of his own party, for being overly tolerant of criticism. There were people who were fierce critics of his when, in his previous guise as president of Ghana between 2013 and 2016, they reported on some matters. In one instance, he threw a cordon of protection around the journalists who had reported on a matter that had tarnished his reputation, even though it was found that the reportage was inaccurate. Unlike under President Akufo-Addo, where journalists had to flee the country because agents of the state were pursuing them, President Mahama threw a cordon of protection around journalists. Journalists who criticized him have been welcomed to his house, to his office. He has attended their book launches and extended a hand of courtesy and friendship to them. He has never shown hostility to any journalist at any point in time that he has been in public office or public life. Therefore, it is most unfair for this sort of narrative to be woven. But as I have indicated, early next week, we shall have formal engagements with the leadership of the Ghana Journalists Association, at which meeting I'm sure these matters can be ironed out. But if you are a journalist in Ghana, you have President Mahama's fullest assurance that merely because you report on his government, even in adverse ways, you are not going to face any reprisal. But please endeavor to use the appropriate channels to seek redress when other members of society harm you in any way. To every extent possible, the government will lend its weight to efforts to seek redress in these matters. But we must distinguish between the actions of overzealous or errant security officials and other members of society and orchestrated attacks by government to punish, as it were, journalists for exposing wrongdoing. The latter is not happening, even if the former is extremely worrying. And we are interested in ensuring that all category of professionals, be they journalists or any other group of professionals, do not suffer for doing their work. So that clarity needs to be brought to the matters at hand. The last